You wake up one morning and all of your goods are gone. The people that you called your friends and your family in the middle of the night, while they were supposed to be keeping a watch on your environment, your surroundings during this crisis, have taken all of your goods, your ammunition, additional firepower, your food, your medicine, and they left. Stress levels during a crisis event will be at unmanageable levels for the majority. They have never endured this type of environment. They've never endured this type of stress, and there will come a breaking point in each person's mentality, a breaking point in everyone's mental health, where they're going to lash out and fly off the deep end at possibly the wrong target. That target could be you, your wife, your husband, your children, other members of your group, and it doesn't matter who that wrong target is. What matters is there will reach a breaking point in your group where you and your family will have to decide how to handle it. There will reach a point where you have to deal with conflict in the middle of a larger and more dangerous crisis. How you deal with this conflict will matter about your survival over the course of the next 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, and beyond. You have to prepare now for conflict resolution. Now, if we look at individuals across the country, across the world who live in a more village setting that is more akin to what we will experience during a long duration emergency, you see that conflict resolution is usually done with some sort of reparation, forgiveness, and some degree of ostracizing. Individuals are shunned away from the group. They're asked to repair the damages that they have caused, usually at great cost to themselves. And then they're left away from the group for either a period of time or indefinitely. We're watching one conflict resolution in a village in another country. And this village, 2 people were fighting who shouldn't have been. They were brothers. They were at conflict, at ends with each other. Now this, just like a large, long-duration emergency at your house, whether it's a long earthquake that keeps emergency services and local infrastructure damaged for weeks, whether it's a nuclear event, a civil war, part of an economic crisis, it really doesn't matter. Right now, we are facing multiple crisis points in which families are banding together. Right now, in your city, people are moving in with other members of their family. They're moving in with their friends. They are trying to build micro villages to get through this crisis. And what you have to start to see is that with these villages, the dependence on the outside world lessens and the dependence on the group members, the village members, increases. As conflict arises, and if you think it's not going to, I want to give you that warning right now that every marriage will have some degree of conflict. Every parenting structure will have some degree of conflict. Every house sitting, house living, if you have house partners, those will have conflict. Even just workplaces have conflict. Every time you get humans together, there will be some level of conflict. And whether there is quick resolution or a long, non-mitigated and irreconcilable difference is the real test to how you will survive this crisis. So in this village, the brothers were fighting. The village relies on each individual person. Everybody has to pull their weight, do their share, and that's exactly how it is in your long duration emergency, and that's exactly how it is right now. People are having to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs, go and do little trade and barters here and there, pulling their own weight for the household. If you have one person fighting with another and they say, you know what, I'm done, they walk away, that takes an arm, a leg away from the entire group. That takes the ability to survive away from the entire group. So there has to be resolution there. In this particular instance, the brothers were fighting. The younger brother was asked to give reparation to the older brother by a council. This council said that the younger brother needed to give a laying hen. Now you might say, okay, well, that's nothing. I'll tell you what, if you take one of my laying hens right now, that is something to me because that's taking the food out of my child's mouth. That's taking the eggs that I give my child for lunch or dinner. That's taking the eggs that turn into baked goods that my wife makes for my children. You take a laying hen from me and you are taking food out of my child's mouth, and that is where you're going to have a problem. So don't think it's no big deal. Now, this is a very poor, very rural village. And this is a modern village. Don't get me wrong. It's not like something you would see on National Geographic. These individuals have cell phones. They have some technology. It's just a very rural, very poor village where everyone relies on each other. And so they're asked, give reparation, give the laying hen. And do you know what they did with that hen? They didn't just give it to the brother. No, they ate it in front of him, and they made him eat some of it. Why is that? Because he saw that what he did, the conflict that he started, wasted his future, wasted his ability to survive. Now, there was alcohol involved, and that's an entire another issue that we need to talk about in our community. When you have drugs and alcohol involved, whether it's needed, whether it's for pain management, it doesn't matter what it is. Any sort of substance is going to increase the likelihood of irreconcilable differences and a larger conflict in your group. So in this individual instance, there was alcohol involved. The brothers were fighting. He was told he has to give the laying hen and money. He had to beg for forgiveness at his brother's feet. So he did each one of these things. Then he had to watch his laying hen, the item that would give food for his children, because he had a son and a daughter, the item that would give food for his children, his ability to sustain himself, he had to watch it be eaten by other members in the group. Now this mentally tells him, you wasted your survival. So there's the reparation. He also had to give a sum of bills, monetary bills, economic bills, whatever the bills were in that area. He had to give money, the laying hen, beg for forgiveness at his brother's feet in front of the entire council. Tell everyone he did the wrong thing. You need to make a plan right now for conflict resolution in your group. If you do not, you are going to suffer the consequences that we opened this video with. Group members are going to take your items. They're going to leave in the middle of the night when you trusted them to be on watch. They're going to hold grudges and they're going to walk away from you, and you're lucky if that is all that they do. You are immensely blessed if that's all that they do with a perceived irreconcilable difference. If they just walk away taking your goods, you can work toward getting other goods. You can start to make some reparation there yourself. But if they do more, if that conflict worsens, if the person's idea of the rule of law suggests to them in their breakdown of their own mental health or this conflict that they should take the law into their own hands and they should hand out punishment themselves, now you've got a problem. So everybody on paper needs to agree to reconciliation. They need to agree to conflict resolution. Get your and you can do this right now in your house. If you say, Brad, I don't have a group, I don't have this, a compound with 4 or 5 families here. I've just got my family, my adult children, my wife. That doesn't matter. Sit down, talk about it. Say, okay, together we're going to agree to conflict resolution. If you think that my wife and I, we've been married for 14 years and we don't have very much conflict, I can't even think of beyond the beginning of our relationship where we had anything that could even be perceived as a conflict that was threatening very early on, when people don't even commit to each other yet. If you don't think for a moment that we have worked out our conflict resolution, you would be absolutely wrong. We know exactly what to do. Things that are common. We don't go to bed without talking through something. We don't just sleep on it. We don't let either one of us just that ember of anger or the ember of conflict burn in our hearts. We always work it out. That's just something between husband and wife. Children and parents, we have conflict resolution. Other exterior members, we have conflict resolution. And I have no problem coming to somebody and saying, let's talk about this. Let's work this out. You need to have this sort of resolution on paper. That doesn't mean for X, Y happens, for, if you do A to me, B is going to be the resolution that we're looking for. That's not what you need to do. You need to make sure that everyone agrees to be a part of your family, a part of your group, a part of your household, your property, whatever it is, that they all have an idea that conflicts will be resolved within the group. If you do someone wrong, you will pay for that wrong. You will help repair that to a degree that the entire group sees as a sufficient repayment. So that means the individual knows that even though there might not be a larger rule of law, even though there might not be a need to call the authorities, because let me tell you what, in a long duration emergency, or if you even take the times that we are at right now where people want to take away the police, if you call the police out because they're already stretched thin, by the time they get to your house, they are usually upset, especially if they have to come out over and over and over again. And if you think this is going to get any better during this financial crisis, you are sorely mistaken. By the time they get there, they're ready to take somebody to jail. They're ready to make somebody pay for it. And think about it. Court is just reparation, conflict resolution. The judge sees over the conflict, he resolves it, and he makes somebody pay. Although it's not any longer you pay the person you did wrong. Now it's you pay the government and you pay the court for making them get involved here. So you and your family need to have a plan on how to deal with this. Are you going to ostracize individuals? And you need to start thinking about, what could somebody do that makes me tell them they are not welcome here? Once they are not welcome any longer, how are you going to handle that? Because they know where you're at, what your goods are, how you can survive. How are you going to make sure that they're given back the things that they contributed to your group, to your survival, minus what was used during the conflict or during the crisis to get to this point in time? What I mean by that is, if somebody brought, and I'm just going to make a real simple example here, if somebody brought 100 pounds of rice to your group, 30 days later, a great degree of that rice is gone, but you need to still give them some rice to go away with. Now, what if they brought antibiotics, medicine? Skills don't really matter here. Of course, those are valuable, sometimes more valuable than any sort of good, but once that skill is given, that's not a tangible good. But make sure that you have a resolution that involves giving them some tangible goods to go, because if you turn somebody out on the street when the street is deadly every single night, they're going to be looking back at your lights. They're going to be looking back at you, your family, your children sleeping in comfort, and that ember is going to turn into a flame of anger and hatred. And what an individual will do in a long duration crisis with an ember of flame and flame of anger and hatred is something that you never, ever want to encounter. Please get these things going in your group. Get started as soon as you can. This crisis, this financial crisis, this economic collapse, this social crisis is only going to get worse. From my family to yours, please stay safe, remain vigilant, and keep watch.